The moon hung low over the small village, a perfect silver coin against the deep blue. In a burrow beneath the old oak tree, a little fox named Pip stirred. His whiskers twitched. He had smelled something on the night breeze, a scent that came only after the last light of dusk had faded. It was the smell of carrot and cinnamon, warm and sweet, and it made his heart beat just a little faster. Pip had one dream. It was not a grand dream, not the kind that gets spoken aloud in the daylight. It was a quiet, steady dream that lived in his chest like a second heartbeat. He wanted to bake a carrot cake. Not just any carrot cake, but one that would taste like the night itself. One that would be soft and golden and dusted with a glaze that caught the moonbeams. He had never baked one before. He had watched the badgers in the village bakery. He had seen them measure and whisk and pour, but he had never tried it himself. The problem was simple. Pip was afraid of the dark, not the whole dark. Not the big velvet darkness of the forest, but the dark of his own burrow, the place where he would have to work. His burrow was warm and lined with soft moss, but when the sun set, the shadows grew long, and Pip's paws trembled. If you have ever wanted to make something new, something beautiful, but felt a flutter of fear in your belly, then you already know how Pip felt. He stood at the edge of his burrow, a small bundle of flour tied in a cloth, a single carrot in his mouth, and he took a breath. The first step was the hardest. Pip stepped inside. The burrow was cool, the air still. A sliver of moonlight came through the entrance, painting a pale stripe on the earthen floor. He set down his bundle and opened it. Inside was a small portion of flour, one egg from the hen who lived 3 hedgerows over, a pinch of salt, and the carrot. He had no recipe written down. He only had the memory of the scent, the feeling of warmth he had tasted in his imagination. He began to mix. His paws were small and clumsy. The flour puffed into a white cloud, making him sneeze. He laughed, a soft chirp, alone in the quiet. But the dough felt wrong. It was too sticky. It clung to his paws like soft clay. He added more flour, a little at a time, still sticky. He tried to knead, but the dough was a stubborn, shapeless mass. He pressed his nose into it, sniffing. It smelled earthy, not sweet. He had failed. The first attempt was a lump, and in the dim light he could not see what he was doing wrong. He could not see the proportions. He could not see the way the badgers made it look so easy. He sat back, his ears drooping. His ears. A single crumb of dough fell from the table and landed on the floor near his foot. That little crumb, the one that fell, did not know it was about to become the most important part of the story. If you want to stay with Pip through all his sticky attempts and warm successes, subscribe so the night can call you back to this burrow. And if you have ever started something and watched it fall apart, leave the word crumb in the comments. A small reminder that beginnings are often messy. But here is the secret Pip did not know. Pre-industrial baking manuals from Japan, written by bakers who worked by candlelight, record a strange truth. Dough does not rise by sight. It rises by feel, by the ambient temperature of the night air, by the gentle motion of the hands. Pip's dough was not a failure. It was waking up, The crumb that fell onto the floor would not be lost. It would become the seed of something unexpected. And so Pip, with his sticky paws and his drooping ears, did not give up. He tried again. He measured a new portion of flour. He cracked another egg. He grated the carrot into fine, fragrant ribbons. The smell of carrot filled the burrow, brighter than before. The darkness did not seem quite so heavy. Then something happened. Pip's paw slipped. The bowl tipped. The batter splashed across the table. A wave of defeat washed over him. He had made it worse. His second attempt was a sticky disaster. He wanted to cry, but he was a brave little fox, so he just blinked hard and blinked again. He thought about giving up. He thought about the badgers and their perfect loaves. He thought about how he would never be able to bake like them. But then he remembered the smell that had called him out of his burrow, and he remembered the crumb that had fallen. He reached down and picked it up. It was still soft. It was still warm. Stay with me here, little one. Can you picture this moment? Pip held the crumb in his paw. It was not a finished cake. It was not even a proper ball of dough. But it was his. And in that crumb, he felt the night itself. The crumb felt like the moonlight on his fur. It felt like the hum of the earth under his burrow. And he understood something he had not understood before. A study from Chemical Senses, published in 2019, found that sweetness perception increases in low-light conditions. When the eyes are not flooded with brightness, the tongue tastes sweetness more deeply. Pip's carrot, grated in the dark, tasted sweeter to him than any carrot tasted in the sun. His cake would not be a failure. It would be a night cake, made with night sweetness. He took a breath. He scooped up the sticky batter. He placed it in a small clay dish he had found. He set the dish near the entrance of the burrow, where the moonlight could touch it, and he waited. He did not know why he did this. He only knew it felt right. Are you wondering what happened next? Have you ever tried so hard to get something right that you made it even harder? That was Pip. His whiskers trembling. Pip's whiskers were trembling, but he was not alone in that moment. If you have ever felt that flutter, you are part of this quiet community. Subscribe so you can always find your way back to Pip's burrow when you need a reminder to keep going. And in the comments, share one word that describes how you felt the last time you wanted to give up, but did not. Pip's word was sticky. But the oven's glow, even the soft warmth of the burrow, made him brave enough to try one more time. And this time, he did not focus on the recipe. He focused on the feeling. He closed his eyes. He let his paws remember what they had done. He kneaded gently, slowly, letting the dough teach him. And the dough began to change. It became smooth. It became soft. It became a perfect little mound waiting to rise. Think of a time your hands knew what to do even when your eyes were not sure. Feel that memory. That is the night baker's secret. That is the feeling Pip found, alone in his burrow, with nothing but a carrot, some flour, and the quiet faith that the dark was not his enemy. It was his helper. Keep that feeling close, little one. It belongs to you. The Ghibli animators who drew Arietti's kitchen understood this secret. They painted shadows into every corner of that tiny house. They made the stove glow with a deep, patient orange. They knew that a kitchen in the dark is not a place of fear. It is a place of slow magic. The same moonlight that fell through Arietti's window now filled Pip's burrow. It lit his clay dish. It made the batter shimmer. Just a little, and Pip, for the first time, did not feel alone. The crumb that had fallen earlier still lay on the floor. Pip picked it up again. He rolled it between his paws. It was small, no bigger than a berry. He placed it on top of the batter in the clay dish. He did not know why. It was a tiny, imperfect lump, but it felt like a promise. He thought of the Japanese bakers who worked by candlelight, trusting their hands instead of their eyes. He thought of how they said dough remembers warmth. He thought of how the night air helps things rise, not by force, but by patience. And he smiled, a small, sleepy smile. Then came the waiting. Pip sat near the entrance of his burrow, his tail curled around his paws. The moon climbed higher. The forest grew still. He could hear the gentle hoot of an owl far away. He could feel the cool breeze that carried the scent of pine and damp earth. And inside, the batter sat in the clay dish, doing its quiet work. Pip did not watch it. He simply trusted it. He trusted that the night knew what to do. And slowly, very slowly, the batter began to rise. It puffed up, soft and round, like a little cloud made of carrot and flour. When Pip finally peeked, the cake had taken shape. It was not perfect. It was lopsided. A small crack ran down one side. But it was golden. It was warm. And it smelled exactly like the dream that had called him out of his burrow. He touched it gently with his nose. It was soft. It was real. He had made it. Not by following a recipe perfectly, not by seeing clearly, but by feeling, by trusting, by letting the night do its secret work. He took a tiny bite. The sweetness filled his mouth. It tasted like moonlight. It tasted like the crumb that had fallen and the hope that had not given up. And Pip knew, with his whole small heart, that the night was not a thing to fear. It was a thing to listen to. It was a thing to bake with, and as he curled up beside the cooling cake, his eyes grew heavy. The moon painted his fur silver. The last warmth of the clay dish touched his cheek, and he slept, dreaming of carrots and cinnamon and the gentle hum of the earth. When Pip woke, the burrow had changed. The moonlight had shifted, now falling through the entrance at a softer angle. The air was still, but it carried a new scent, not just of cake, but of something deeper. It was the scent of time passing, of night deepening, of secrets settling into place. The cake had cooled completely. Its surface was firm, a pale gold with darker patches where the glaze had pooled. Pip touched it again, gently. His paw left a small dent. He pulled his paw back, and the dent stayed. The cake was imperfect, but it was his. And in that imperfection, he found something unexpected, a feeling of quiet pride, not loud, not showy, but steady, like the warmth that lingered in the clay dish. He thought of the badgers again. They had taught him nothing, not directly, but they had shown him something. The way the dough yielded to their paws, the way they never rushed. Pip had tried to imitate them. He had tried to copy their speed, their confidence. But he had learned slowly that the dough did not want to be rushed. It wanted to be felt. It wanted to be listened to, and Pip had finally listened. He broke off a small piece of the cake. It crumbled in his paw, soft and warm. He placed it on his tongue. The sweetness spread, not sharp, but gentle. It was the sweetness he had tasted in the dark, the sweetness that belonged only to the night. He ate another piece, and another, and each bite felt like a small conversation with the moon. But here is the beautiful part. Pip did not eat all the cake. He left half of it on a flat stone near the entrance of his burrow. He did not know why he did this. It was not a plan. It was not a rule. It was simply a feeling that the cake was not only for him, that the night had helped him make it, and that the night deserved a share. And in the morning, when the sun rose and the shadows shrank back into the corners, the cake was gone. Not eaten by Pip, but by something else. The stone was empty, except for a single small crumb shining in the daylight. And Pip understood, with a deep and quiet certainty, that the night bakers had accepted his gift, that the forest had tasted his cake, that he was part of something older than recipes, older than badgers, older than the village itself. He curled up again, not to sleep, but to rest. His head rested on his paws. His ears were soft and still. The burrow was warm. The daylight crept in, pale and thin. But Pip did not mind the light anymore. He had made his peace with the dark. He had learned that the night was not a place of fear. It was a place of slow transformation. It was a place where flower and carrot and moonlight could become something that did not exist before. And that was enough. That was more than enough. And so, if you ever find yourself in your own burrow, with your own small bundle of flour and your own single carrot, remember Pip. Remember his sticky paws. Remember his fallen crumb. Remember that the night is not your enemy. It is your quiet helper. It holds the sweetness you cannot see. It knows the recipe your eyes cannot read. And it will wait for you, patient and warm, until you are ready to bake. But Pip's story does not end with the cake. It does not end with the crumb or the clay dish. It ends in a quieter place. It ends in the moment after the dream has come true, when the fox is no longer chasing anything. He is simply there, in his burrow, with the scent of a night well spent. And that is the truest secret of all. The night bakery does not live in a building. It does not have shelves or recipes or bells that ring. It lives in the space between wanting and having. It lives in the sticky dough, in the cracked bowl, in the crumb that falls and becomes the starting point for something new. Pip did not become a famous baker. The badgers did not come to learn from him. The village never knew what happened in that small burrow under the old oak tree. But the moon knew, the owl knew, the earth beneath his paws knew, and Pip himself knew, in the quiet way that knowledge sits when it does not need to be spoken. He closed his eyes. the taste of carrot and cinnamon still soft on his tongue. The burrow was dark, but the darkness was no longer empty. It was full of the smell of his cake. It was full of the memory of his 2 sticky attempts and his 1 warm success. And it was full of the quiet certainty that he had done something beautiful, not despite the dark, but because of it. The quiet certainty settled into Pip like a warm blanket. Before you let your own eyes grow heavy, subscribe to this little burrow so the night can find you again when the next story rises. And in the comments, leave the word night cake, a quiet way of saying you were here, listening, as a fox learned to trust the dark. So when you close your eyes tonight, listen for the whisk. Feel the crumb that might fall from your own small hands. And know that the night, with all its shadows, is holding a warm space just for you. The fox found his cake. Now it is time to find your own quiet place and let the night do what it has always done. It waits. It warms. It rises. And then it rests. Good night, little one. Good night, Pip. The moon will watch over both of you until morning comes. The burrow settled into silence. Pip's breathing grew slow and even. His nose twitched once, catching the last faint trace of cinnamon that hung in the air. The clay dish sat empty beside him, still holding a whisper of warmth. Outside, the moon began its slow descent toward the horizon. The stars had shifted. The night was older now, deeper, more full of quiet than it had been when Pip first stepped inside with his bundle of flour. The forest outside had gone completely still. Even the owl had fallen silent. Pip did not wake. He did not stir. He simply slept, curled around the memory of his cake, around the knowledge that he had done what he set out to do. The dream was no longer a dream. It was a warm, golden thing that had existed, that had been tasted, that had been shared with the night itself. And in that deep, peaceful sleep, Pip's whiskers did not twitch with worry. His paws did not clench with effort. He was soft and still, like the dough he had learned to trust. The burrow held him. The earth held the burrow. The night held the earth. And so the cycle was complete. The fox, who had been afraid of the dark, had baked a carrot cake in the dark. Not despite it, but with it. The dark had not been an obstacle. It had been the ingredient he needed most. That is the secret the fox found. Not a recipe, not a trick, but a feeling. A quiet trust that lives in the space between your hands and the dough, between your heart and the moon. Now the night has done its work. The cake is gone. The crumb is a memory. And Pip is at rest. Let the quiet hold you now, just as it held him. Let the warmth of a thing made with care settle into your bones. And when morning comes, you will carry a small piece of the night with you, tucked somewhere safe, where no light can reach it. Good night, little one. The fox is sleeping, and so are you.